Jordan. Thanks, Tim, for having me on the show, and excited to share some relevant experience of what I've found that's worked well. And to give a quick of the backstory, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started businesses since I was 12 years old, and had a lot of different businesses, from digital photography business back in high school to an IT support business in college, to a social media company the last 10 years. And I started this Airbnb business about 4 years ago. And the way it started was I hired a Carlson student, an entrepreneurship student who was looking to start a business that summer. And I said, I want to start another business this summer. Let's spend some time thinking about what would be the best business to be able to break even by the end of summer that can grow and scale and build a fun business model out of. And so we talked about a lot of different business models that first month. And he proposed this idea of doing an Airbnb business. And so we looked at the financials, we looked at the future possibilities of it. I'm somebody who likes to travel, so I have an ulterior motive of being able to have my own places in the future that I can rent and re-rent out, or buy and rent out. Made a ton of sense to me. I've met other Airbnb hosts now around the world that do that, where they have property in Italy and the Caribbean and Colorado and the various places that they enjoy traveling to, so they can have homes set up the way they want. And then they rent them out on these short-term rental sites in the meantime and make money off of them. And so we started that summer with one property. We rented an apartment later that summer, re-rented it out with permission on Airbnb. And just a quick talk about financials. We made about $4,500 in revenue that first month on a $1,500 one bedroom lease downtown Minneapolis. And so we did 3x on a long-term rental rate. And so we did that type of revenue for that late summer into that fall. We learned that in the winter, we get about 1x of long-term rental rates. And that next summer, I expanded from one property to 4 properties. And then by that following winter, expanded from 4 to 8, and then had 12 by the time Super Bowl hit of February 2018. Yeah. And then started the business model of managing properties for others. So these were all my own properties and almost exclusively apartments that we rented or re-rented out with permission. I had my own condo on there at the time as well. And then people started asking me for help, helping out managing out their homes that they owned. Some people asked if they should buy property and whether it'd be good for short-term rentals. And we just started to expand the business model that direction. And so today, early 2019, I've got property now in Vail, Colorado. We're looking to expand out there. We're looking to expand here in the Twin Cities and beyond. We know the operations of the business in and out. We know the finances in and out. We know how to study supply demand of various zip codes and neighborhoods to figure out where are the short-term rental opportunities. Yeah. And looking to grow and help people out. Looking forward to sharing a little bit of experience here today in this show.
Cool. I'm curious about that zip codes and helping people. So you're obviously in certain markets and you've identified those. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you look for in a market in order to go into it?
Yes. Yep. So we look for gaps in supply and demand for short-term rentals. And so not only is there software that can help us, but I also think about a few other factors. So downtown Minneapolis is an interesting space because, there are some hotels, but there's not nearly enough hotels for the amount of demand, especially for the summer. And, some people see hotels as competitive to short-term rentals and some people don't. But what I find it's interesting is that a lot of the apartment buildings, a lot of the condo buildings don't allow short-term rentals. Well, the demand for short-term rentals is very high in the downtown area of Minneapolis, the uptown area of Minneapolis near the airport, along the 35W path between the airport and downtown. And because the demand is so high, and specifically the supply downtown is very low, and the supply in other areas is still not that large, I find that there's a huge opportunity there. And so we started downtown knowing that the market rates would be best for us. We were averaging about $230 a night for our one bedroom apartment downtown Minneapolis that first summer. And $230 a night, and we're only paying about $1,500 a month for the lease. It only takes about 7 days to break even on that. Right. And so I saw an opportunity there, and I think we booked up like 25 nights that first month. And we were just learning how to do it. Now, again, 3-4 years later, we have more supply, especially around downtown. And so the average market rates downtown are not quite as high, but last summer we averaged about 150 a night
Okay.
across all of our units. And so I still see an opportunity there into the future.
Yeah. So, uh, so other markets that you've identified, what other markets are you in right now?
Yep. So I'm also in Colorado, and specifically in the mountains of Colorado. When you think about where do people travel, where do people want to go, where are there not enough hotel rooms, and where are there not enough short-term rentals? Vail was a place where what's interesting is there are a decent number of hotels, but not nearly enough for the amount of demand. There are millions of people that go to Vail to ski every year, and the types of people who own property in Vail have so much money that they typically don't need the income
Sure.
off of short-term rentals. And so there's a disproportionately low percentage of owners that are renting on short-term rental sites.
Okay.
But therefore, the few that do, and can make an extraordinary income. We've got a 5-bedroom house now in Vail, and if we were, if it wasn't my property, if we were doing our normal management style, the homeowner, in addition to being able to pay off their mortgage for the year, would earn an extra $5,000 a month off of this property.
5,000 more even after paying your fee, or is that?
After paying our fee, after paying the mortgage, doing our model, homeowners would make an extra $5,000 a month. I mean, that's a material amount of money. Now, these homes typically are $1 million homes.
Sure.
So there's still a fair amount of capital involved regardless. But what I've been thinking about is maybe there's a way, I don't want to call it a timeshare model, but maybe there's a way to get multiple people to go in together to invest into buying a home.
Sure.
And, we manage it and everybody earns a piece of it, where instead of, typically investors earning hundreds of dollars a month or maybe over $1,000 a month off of a property in cash flow. I mean, our model allows people to earn substantially more than that.
Sure. Sounds good. There are ways, by the way, financing ways you can just do it outright. Tenants in common ownership is one way to do that. And then if you've heard of fractional ownership, but that's a little different because generally with fractional ownership, someone gets the right to stay there certain times of the year, but a tenants in common structure. Yeah. I think there's definitely a way. Maybe we can get Brad Shipley involved in that to do the legal on that.
Yeah, well, if you guys can help me figure out the right way to do that and set it up, I'd love to be able to showcase specific properties in a fractional ownership model so it's a smaller investment. I think that there's a model where more people can live this lifestyle that I'm living. I've mentioned to Jordan, but I've been living the digital nomad life the last year and a half or so, literally living out of backpack, living out of my car. I sold my condo and living out of my Airbnbs, but then traveling the world. And I think the future of being able to have your own places around the world that are set up your way, whether you want to go scuba diving or travel with friends or be with your family, and then making money off of that property is easier than it's ever been with these short-term rental sites.
So aside, this isn't really investing, but it goes to the lifestyle thing. Do you have owner's closets in all your places where you store your stuff?
Absolutely.
Oh, really? Yeah. Do you usually take like a whole room and block it off, or is it just a small closet, or what do you do?
For me, it's even a small portion of a closet, and I've seen other Airbnb owners do the same thing, where it's a portion of a closet is their stuff, or they lock it away. I mean, actually, it was probably 2 years ago. I stopped bringing my skis and boots back to Minnesota. I just left them in Colorado because it's not, in my perspective, worthwhile to even ski here once you've skied out there enough.
Yeah.
So I leave them now at the house in Vail, and I've got a pass to ski out there. And when flights are so cheap, and because of my Turo business, I actually have free cars at the airport that I make money off of when I'm not there as well. So I make money off of the cars. I make money off of this property that I stay at. And oh, by the way, when I bought the cars, it came with free ski passes. It's just like a free trip.
Jordan and I, by the way, you probably don't know this, but Jordan and I review ski resorts for a living. We're a professional ski resort, so we could come. We could come next year and review your place and make sure that it's all up to par.
I'm game. Sounds like fun to me.
Sounds good. Tell us, like, Jordan, what's on your mind? Actually, I've been asking all the questions.
So really, I think how have you identified your markets? You said you look for inefficiencies in the market. Is it also where do you want to be? Also, is it some consideration for you?
It is, and I think it is for many prospective homeowners and investors. And I see a model where people can buy, there's people in Minnesota, as an example, people that we all know, right? That would love to be able to ski in Colorado more. And when when thinking about buying property in Colorado, most people think, I can't afford that yet, but I want to.
Sure. Someday.
Someday. With the increased income potential from short-term rentals and with some sort of fraction ownership model, I think people would be very surprised at how little it takes to be able to buy a property, and then all of a sudden this is not a depreciating asset. This is an appreciating asset that happens to also generate lots of cash flow along the way. So to me, it makes a ton of sense, regardless of where somebody's at. If you got even a small amount of capital, a relatively small amount of capital, this is an opportunity that I think more people could take advantage of.
Cool. Absolutely. So I guess, it all sounds great. What's the process for getting set up, and how do you get going if you're going to work with you and be an Airbnb host or an Airbnb owner?
Sure. Yep. So if you go to awayagents.com, on our website, a little bit down the page, you can learn a little bit about how we work, what we do, what our value proposition is. We typically start with a research project. If you don't already have a property in mind to do short-term rentals with, we can help learn a bit about what kind of property do you want to have yourself, and study where are the opportunities across this country that allow for that. And whether you want to have another property in the Twin Cities or a property in Vail or a property somewhere else, we can analyze what is the potential supply demand of that area, talk to you about what kinds of properties work better than others, just from a logistics and technical standpoint, and help people from that perspective. Pretty soon here, actually in about 2 weeks, we'll have the ability to have nearly automated pro formas, so you can get full estimations of how much money you could earn off of properties after working with somebody like us. And these are not guarantees, but they're estimations based on similar nearby properties and their historical records the last year or two. And so we can get fairly accurate ideas of what that property can make in the future.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, because basically you're essentially a management company for Airbnbs, right? If we want to break it down, right? But from what I'm understanding, you'll also assist a potential client of yours in helping make the decision whether it's a smart investment in a particular property in a particular market. Is that correct?
Yep. As I've mentioned to Jordan in the past, I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not licensed. I'm not a mortgage person. I don't have anything in that space. But we can help from a consultative standpoint, help figure out which types of properties work best from a short-term rental perspective. What could you earn off of that? Just like you guys have partners, analyzing the long-term rental rates, and or do some of that analysis yourself. We've studied that. We know that world better than many other people, especially here in the Twin Cities. And so we know that space. We know how to make it work. If people want to do it themselves, people are more than welcome to do so. And, there are a lot of lessons that can be learned on your own. And we could talk about some of those concepts. Obviously, Airbnb prides itself on being really easy to set up and a great platform. But there's a lot of little nuances to it. How do you get your property listed at the top of Airbnb? We've studied the optimization. Think of it like Google's PageRank for Google listings.
Sure.
It's just like that, but for Airbnb. So we know what they're looking for to rank at the top of the list. When we had our properties here downtown, if you did a Google search or an Airbnb search for Airbnb properties downtown Minneapolis, our properties would just take up the first page. And so we got rented out more than anybody else, which helped us immensely.
Right.
There's also a lot of operational components of automation with messaging, software to help synchronize between VRBO and Airbnb and HomeAway and Expedia and all those different sites.
Right.
There's the ability to automate with smart home tech. There's a lot of those kinds of things that we've learned along the way that, although we take a percentage of the total revenue, my belief is, we can save a lot of time for people and potentially help them earn more.
Sure, absolutely.
So are you helping people set up rentals as Airbnbs too? So maybe let's say I want to rent an apartment downtown Minneapolis and Airbnb it. Could you help me get that going?
Yes. Yep. So we can help you learn about our experiences on, the whole perspective from which buildings are more likely to allow it, how to make sure the leasing ensures that you allow it, how to set up the property from a furniture perspective, from a smart tech perspective, from a safety perspective, how to get the listing set up online. We could do everything for somebody, or just do some consulting to help somebody learn a few things.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Got it. So I know you said you have some resources on your website and some are coming. Can you give the website address again?
Yep. So it's awayagents.com.
Okay.
We chose that name because in many jurisdictions, many cities and counties, the legal term is you have to have a local agent, somebody within 60 minutes of the property is actually managing the property.
Mm-hmm.
So many cities and counties require that, and so we are the away agent that helps you get away. And so awayagents.com, you can learn a little bit about us there, and we've got some places to start right there on the website.
Okay. And you're prepared to break into other markets, it sounds like, provided the numbers look right. So if someone, for example, wanted to go down to Nashville to start a Airbnb business, you'd be prepared to enter that market, for example.
That's a great question. So right now we are set up for the Twin Cities and for the mountains in Colorado, where if somebody calls us today, we can set them up literally this next week.
Sure.
If somebody wants Nashville, we know everything required to get a new operation set up, so we just need maybe a month and a half lead time.
Right.
But when you're buying a new property or renting a new property, it's going to take that much time anyway. So we're ready to be able to scale.
I know you have a couple of hacks to scale because I've seen you present before. Can you share just a tip or two? Like I know you, for example, your furniture. How are you acquiring your furniture?
Yeah, so we've rented furniture in the past, which made it super simple, especially if it was in a location that we didn't know how long we would be there. The apartments here downtown, I didn't know if I was going to keep them past the Super Bowl or not, and so renting furniture made help them so they were there the next week. We could return them on a moment's notice, and even when you looked at the economics of it, if I had chosen to buy furniture then tried to store it, I'm sure it'd have been more expensive for me to do that in those down tier periods. So it's easier for us to scale with rental furniture. I scale with software to help on automation. I've got some virtual assistants in the Philippines that help me with a lot of different things, including this business. And so, we're set up to be able to scale pretty fast.
All right, and you can help others do the same, obviously, right? So
exactly,
they're gonna, if they use you as a management company, they're gonna get all your tips. They're gonna basically you can get your knowledge as part of the package.
That's right.
Sweet.
So you're definitely helping people figure out, is it short-term rental or long-term rental more profitable?
Mm-hmm.
What's the process look like? Let's say I sign up with you today to host a property in Uptown Minneapolis. What does that look like from start to finish to get it going?
Great question. So if you've got a property already that you're already ready to go with short-term rentals, we've got an onboarding process. So we start you with a questionnaire. We'll start with a phone call and a questionnaire and an agreement. And in the questionnaire, you answer a bunch of questions about the property, and about what you want, what you're looking for. How often do you want to stay there? Is it 0%? Is it 10%? Is it 80%? Everybody's given us different answers,
Right.
and there's a different situation for everybody. And the more that we can learn about your background before we start diving in, the easier it is for everybody. So questionnaire, and then we'll do a call to talk through that and some additional questions, and an agreement to get started. We'll have a setup fee to get all the tech figured out. How is remote logistics and key handoffs and all that going to work? Do you have a local cleaner set up that you want to use or not? And I've got cleaners here in Minneapolis ready to go. And, is it furnished yet or not? If it's not, we'll help with that. And then once it's furnished, we get photos right away. We get listings up. Usually from the point, as long as if someone's already furnished and somebody has a property and someone says yes, generally it's about 2 to 3 weeks for us to be fully operational, ready to go. So it doesn't take that much time. to go from that. If they need to get furnished, if they don't have the property yet, obviously there's some additional delays in that we just have to coordinate around. But it doesn't take much time to get started for us to get fully up and running. And because we're approaching summer season, this is the time to sign up. The amount of revenue and income potential in the summer is, 3 times higher than the winter. And so, typically when you look at, in comparison to long-term rental rates, whether it's uptown or downtown, in the summer, generally you'll get 2 to 3x what you would long-term rental rates for the roughly 6 months of summer. So, early May to late October we found was really good. And then it slows down. And then of course, December, January, February, almost nobody comes here. But even with almost nobody coming here, we'll drop our average daily rates to increase our utilization. It'll make a little bit less than long-term rentals, but enough where the summer more than compensates for that. So it's depending on location, depending on the property, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, I know this. I know that Jordan and I both have a lot of clients who own duplexes, stuff like that in the Twin Cities. And I believe that the majority of them are long-term rentals. There's probably a couple of Airbnb folks out there or short-term rentals. You give a free analysis if they want to like contact you and find out if it makes sense to make the switch. You do that for no charge, that analysis, or is there a fee for that?
Well, we do it. I'll do a phone call with anybody to talk with them about what it's like, what the experience is like, what they can expect roughly. Typically, as somebody gets closer to, wanting to commit, and whether that is a full assessment of what does that pro forma look like for that property, depending on how detailed they want it, there'll be some charges there. With you guys as partners, I want to, give you guys many of these assessments for free to use for properties, so you guys can leverage those. And if there's some of your guests on the show that want that, we'll do that as well.
Okay, cool.
So do you just do entire places or also rooms?
We can also do rooms as well. It helps if the rooms have a separate entrance, but even if not, we can do that.
Okay, that's interesting.
Cool.
I know that I've got a few friends along 35W between the airport and downtown, and that literally have a basement. Let's say it's a 3-4 bedroom, maybe it's a 3-bedroom home, and the basement happens to have a bedroom and a bathroom and a mini kitchen or something that's got a separate entrance. And those kinds of properties do exceptionally well. I've got a friend who made 2x her mortgage payment on this property, this house that she has, just from renting out her basement. She still had the top 2 floors, for herself.
We know what to do with it.
Yeah, we're selling a property of his right now. That pro forma would have been really interesting to have when we listed it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't have any specific questions. Well, while Jordan's looking, by the way, if you want any more information, obviously you can go to awayagents.com. You can also just comment down below, ask questions. We'll make sure that Tyler gets a chance to see those. We'll tag him and make sure that he's looking and replying back to people too.
Yeah, and I know there's probably some agents watching this. Tell us how you're working with agents in other markets and how you intend to start doing that here too.
Yep, great question. So we're just building up partnerships with real estate agents, both in Colorado and here in the Twin Cities. And I see a model where, we can not only make these assessments, these pro formas that you can list and attach to a property. If you're a listing agent, or if you're on the buying side, if you have a buyer who's specifically interested in short-term rentals and you give us the tour itinerary, at least a day or two ahead of time, we could be able to make some of those, mini pro formas available for you as well, for those tours, so they can have the right property. I think that we're still figuring out the right compensation plan, but we're planning to offer bonuses, for those who do offer us referrals. And so feel free to reach out. We can talk through that. But I think there's a model where everybody wins. There's a huge amount of opportunity here.
Cool. Absolutely. Yeah, really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear more about that. pro forma for agents as I show properties in the nicer areas of North Minneapolis, the state Northeast, uptown,
Yeah.
South Minneapolis. I'd love to be able to bring that with me. And as I list properties in those areas too, you know, it's a big selling point saying, hey,
It is.
you could either rent this out long-term for this price, or short-term rental, you could get 3x that. And
Right.
have no mortgage payment at all. So most of the people I work with, of course, are people looking to live in a multifamily property, so house hack, duplex or triplex, fourplex type of thing. So having another option on how to increase their income with rents already being high in Minneapolis, St. Paul, is a great deal.
Right.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Yep, that's definitely something we can help with. And you know, there's a huge value proposition there. You are providing more information to your buyers or sellers. You're helping provide extra value, and we want to make this fast and easy to be able to have these assessments that you can attach and use. And so we're looking forward to those partnerships.
Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to it also. Any other questions you've got?
No, I don't think so, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your knowledge and expertise. It's nice to be able to see it more than once. I mean, I've seen you before, so I know you have a lot to offer. And someday I'd actually like you to do a separate one of these about Turo. It's not real estate related, but I think it'd still be interesting to our viewers, you know?
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
value add for rentals too, or short-term rentals. Just have a car outside that you could turn on Turo and pick up.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you doing that at any of your Airbnb rentals?
You know, what's interesting, there's a very large market for Turo. There's a very large market for Airbnb. I have found that although we've mentioned to every Turo guest that we have Airbnbs and to every Airbnb guest that we have Turos, I don't know if it's when people make the decisions, but we've had almost nobody in 4 years do both.
Wow.
And so
Really?
it surprises me, to be perfectly honest, but we can have cars right at our Vail property, and we have had cars here, and to try to make it easy for people, but that combo hasn't sold, and
Do
it's
do you offer a package? Is that part of like a package?
we did build a package, yep, and nobody bought it, so I don't quite understand why. It surprised me. It seems like it would make a ton of sense, but
Spend
maybe
time
that's
on Expedia and figure out what they do.
right.
Right.
Right. But yeah, Turo's been fascinating. I've got 11 cars today that I rent out to people. And so it's been a great way to earn a side income. I do very little work for it. You know, as long as you can get over the stress once in a while of getting towed and issues and they get in accidents, and you know, there's more of the emotional stress thing for most people. But if you can remove that and remove the crazy thought of owning 11 cars, you know, which I think is a big hurdle for a lot of people, and rightly so. It works quite well. So it's been a good business, and would more than be willing to talk about that in the future as well. But yeah, I think I'm one of the top. I've met most of the top Airbnb hosts in town. I've met most of the top Turo hosts in town. I think I'm in the top 5 most experienced hosts in the Twin Cities. You know, based on volume, I've had about 1,000 reservations in Airbnb, had about 1,000 reservations in Turo, and there are not many people that have been at that scale.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah, thank
Cool.
you.
I'm interested in that. I just think it's interesting, and it might be a way for me to get my convertible, you know.
That's what it's all about, right?
Right, exactly. All right, well, that's all I got. Make sure you comment below, ask Tyler some questions, because now is a chance to like actually have his attention and figure out how you can get your 1,000 reservations too, you know.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Tyler, and I hope everybody just got a lot out of this. I'm sure I know I did, so I
Yeah.
hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Well, thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Tim. Again, awayagents.com, or my email address there is tyler@awayagents.com. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks.
yeah, thank you.
Cool. All right, I think I'm gonna end the whole meeting.